Imagine walking through a perfectly kept vegetable garden, neat rows of cabbages, corn standing like soldiers, tomatoes heavy on the vine. Then, out of nowhere, you notice something strange. A patch of low green sprouts weaving between the carrots. Bright yellow flowers peeking among the beans. Even clover leaves dotting the lettuce bed. If you were in most backyards, you'd expect to see someone rushing over with a hoe to rip them out. But here, no one moves. In fact, they leave them there on purpose. This isn't some neglected plot. It belongs to one of the most self-sufficient gardening communities on Earth, the Amish. Their gardens are famously productive, feeding large families year after year without synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, or fancy equipment. And yet they let 3 common weeds grow right alongside their crops. It's not laziness, it's not forgetfulness. It's part of a method passed down for generations. A system that quietly keeps their soil fertile, wards off pests, and even adds extra food to the table. Today, you'll learn exactly what these 3 plants are, why the Amish refuse to pull them, and how you can use the same weed wisdom in your own garden to grow stronger crops with less work. By the end, you might just think twice before yanking the next weed you see. The first weed hides in plain sight, especially in spring. It spreads like a green carpet with delicate stems and tiny star-shaped white flowers. Most gardeners groan when they see it, calling it an invader. The Amish? They smile. This plant is chickweed. It sprouts early in the season, thriving in cool weather when other plants are still waking up. To the untrained eye, it's just another green nuisance. But in Amish gardens, chickweed is a quiet worker. Chickweed has these shallow roots that, well, gently loosen the topsoil, making it a lot easier for those tender crop roots to spread. As it grows, chickweed kind of acts like a living mulch, shielding the soil from temperature swings and preventing erosion from those heavy spring rains, and when it's cut back or just left to die down, it releases valuable nutrients, especially potassium, right back into the earth. The Amish also see chickweed as a bonus crop. Its leaves are edible, packed with vitamins and minerals, and they can be eaten fresh in salads or just lightly cooked. Back in the days when every bit of food really mattered, families would gather chickweed as eagerly as they did spinach. Even today, Amish cooks will toss it into soups or mix it with eggs for a kind of spring tonic meal. For gardeners outside the Amish community, the takeaway is actually pretty simple. Chickweed can be managed rather than, completely eradicated. By letting it grow in early spring and then cutting it before it seeds, you get a natural soil booster and an extra harvest, without lifting much more than a pair of scissors. The second plant is one that makes lawn owners shudder but herbalists cheer. Its bright yellow blooms stand tall, followed by those familiar white puffballs children love to blow apart. Yes, it's the dandelion. To many gardeners, dandelions are enemy number 1. But the Amish see them as nutrient miners. Dandelions send down deep tap roots, sometimes more than a foot into the ground, breaking up compacted soil where a hoe could never reach. As they draw up minerals like calcium and iron from the subsoil, they store them in their leaves. When the leaves die back or are chopped and dropped, those nutrients return to the top layer of the soil where crops can access them. The flowers are a nectar source for pollinators early in the season, feeding bees and beneficial insects before most garden plants bloom. In Amish gardens, healthy pollinators mean bigger yields for cucumbers, melons, and beans later on. Then there's the food value. Dandelion greens are packed with vitamins A, C, and K. Roots can be roasted for a coffee substitute, and flowers are used in traditional dandelion wine. Nothing goes to waste. Instead of waging war against them, the Amish simply keep dandelions in check, pulling extras when they crowd young crops, but always leaving some scattered in the garden. It's a trade-off that pays back in healthier soil, thriving pollinators, and free greens for the kitchen. The final weed is actually a quiet cornerstone of Amish soil health. Small trifoliate leaves, sometimes with tiny white or pink blooms, appear between rows and even in pathways. Most would mow or till it out. The Amish plant it intentionally. This is Clover, and, it's a natural nitrogen factory. In its roots, clover hosts special bacteria that take nitrogen from the air and convert it into forms plants can use. This slow release of nitrogen keeps leafy vegetables lush without the need for store-bought fertilizers. Clover also crowds out more aggressive weeds, keeping the soil covered year-round so it never sits bare and vulnerable to erosion. Its blossoms draw bees and other beneficial insects deep into the garden, improving pollination rates. In Amish gardens, clover isn't just tolerated, it's welcomed. They'll let it run between perennial crops or in orchard rows, mowing it down now and then for mulch. That fresh green mulch adds organic matter right where it falls, feeding soil microbes and keeping the growing cycle in motion. For the home gardener, planting a patch of clover is one of the easiest, cheapest ways to improve soil over time. You can overseed bare spots in fall or early spring, then cut and drop the growth around vegetables as a living fertilizer. So why do the Amish allow chickweed, dandelions, and clover to share space with prized crops? It comes down to a different way of looking at weeds altogether. Most modern gardeners see weeds as the enemy, something to be eliminated for a clean look. The Amish see plants as part of a community. If a so-called weed brings value, by feeding soil, attracting pollinators, or putting food on the table, it earns its place. This fits neatly into their broader gardening methods. Amish families often practice no-till farming, which keeps soil structure intact and encourages natural plant diversity. They rotate crops to prevent pest buildup and to balance soil nutrients, and they rely heavily on compost manure and green manures instead of chemical inputs. By tolerating certain weeds, they're not neglecting the garden, they're improving it. Each plant plays a role in a living system, reducing the amount of labor and resources needed to keep it thriving. You don't have to adopt the entire Amish lifestyle to use their weed wisdom in your own backyard. Just start small. The next time chickweed pops up in spring, maybe consider letting it stay until your main crops take off. Leave a few dandelions for the pollinators and soil minerals and, plant or allow clover to grow in pathways, turning it into free fertilizer. The key is management, not abandonment. Control where these plants grow, cut them back before they spread too far, and use them to your advantage. Over time, you'll spend less on soil amendments, attract more beneficial wildlife, and harvest food from places you never expected. The Amish have shown us that sometimes the most valuable garden allies are the plants we've been pulling out for years. By rethinking what counts as a weed, you can turn nuisance plants into nutrient sources, pollinator havens, and even dinner ingredients. So before you reach for the hoe, stop and ask, is this really a weed, or is it working for me? If you found this glimpse into Amish gardening wisdom inspiring, share this video with a fellow gardener and subscribe to Hydro Haven for more soil-smart, time-tested methods that keep your beds thriving season after season. The secrets to a better garden might be right under your feet.